10 space myths debunked by actual science, starting with this famous one. Myth number 1, space is completely silent. In space, no one can hear you scream. It's one of the most famous movie taglines ever, from the 1979 film Alien. And it's mostly wrong. Here's why. Space isn't a perfect vacuum. According to NASA, every cubic centimeter of empty space contains about 5 to 10 particles. That's incredibly sparse compared to Earth's atmosphere, which has roughly 10 quintillion particles in the same volume, but it's still something. In 2003, NASA's Chandra X-ray Observatory detected sound waves coming from a supermassive black hole in the Perseus galaxy cluster. These waves create ripples in the surrounding gas that correspond to a note 57 octaves below middle C. That's over 1,000,000 billion times deeper than what human ears can hear. But wait, there's more. If you were floating in space with a friend and touched your helmets together, they could actually hear you scream. The vibrations would travel through the material of your suits. So while Ridley Scott's tagline sounds cool, the reality is even cooler. Sound exists in space. We just needed the right instruments to detect it. Myth number 2, the sun is a giant ball of fire. We all grew up drawing the sun as a yellow circle with flames coming off it. The problem? The sun isn't burning at all, at least not in the way fire burns on Earth. Fire is a chemical reaction that needs oxygen. But according to astrophysicists at the Harvard-Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics, the sun is powered by nuclear fusion, where hydrogen atoms combine to form helium under extreme pressure and heat. This releases enormous energy without needing oxygen at all. And here's something that might really surprise you. If the sun were actually burning like a campfire, it would have consumed all its fuel in about 3,000 years. Scientists figured this out in the 1800s, which was a big clue that something else had to be powering our star. What the sun actually is, a massive ball of plasma, which is a state of matter different from solid, liquid, or gas. It's basically superheated, electrically charged gas. But wait, did I just say the sun isn't yellow? Let's talk about that next. Myth number 3, the sun is yellow. Quick poll time. What color is the sun? Drop your answer in the comments right now. I'll wait. If you said yellow, you're in good company. That's what most people think. But according to spectral analysis from NASA's Solar Dynamics Observatory, the sun actually emits light across the entire visible spectrum, which combines to make white light. Don't believe me? Here's a simple test. Look at shadows on a clear day. They appear bluish, not yellow. If the sun were truly yellow, shadows would have a blue tint. The reason we see the sun as yellow or orange from Earth is because our atmosphere scatters blue light more than red or yellow light. In fact, if you want to get super technical, the wavelength the sun emits most is actually in the green part of the spectrum, but all the colors combined make white. Astronauts who've seen the sun from space confirm it appears brilliant white, not yellow. So why does almost everyone draw the sun as yellow? Because that's how we typically see it through our atmosphere at sunrise and sunset. Myth number 4, Venus is the closest planet to Earth. I know what you're thinking. Of course Venus is our closest neighbor. It's right next door in the solar system diagrams. But the reality is much more interesting. Remember those neat diagrams with all the planets lined up in a row? According to a 2019 study published in Physics Today, that almost never happens. The planets orbit at different speeds and on slightly different planes. So yes, sometimes Venus is the closest planet to Earth, but sometimes it's Mars, and sometimes it's Mercury. But here's the mind-blowing part. When you average out the distances over time, Mercury is actually the closest planet to Earth most often. And not just to Earth. Mercury is the closest planet to every planet in the solar system on average. This discovery, sometimes called the orbital geometry paradox, was only mathematically proven in 2019. It happens because Mercury has the tightest orbit around the Sun, so it never gets as far away from Earth as Venus does when it's on the opposite side of the Sun. So the next time someone asks you what the closest planet to Earth is, you can blow their mind with this cosmic technicality. we're halfway through our cosmic myth-busting journey, and I've got a question for you. Which of these facts has surprised you the most so far? Let me know in the comments. And stick around because myth number 7 is going to completely change the way you look at all those beautiful Milky Way photos you've seen. Trust me, you don't want to miss it. Myth number 5, Earth orbits the Sun. Remember in school when you learned that Earth and all the planets orbit around the Sun? Well, that's not technically correct. According to the laws of physics that Newton and later Einstein described, any two bodies in space actually orbit around their common center of mass called the barycenter. Since the Sun is so much more massive than Earth, our barycenter is very close to the center of the Sun, but not exactly at the center. When you factor in all the planets, especially massive Jupiter, the solar system's barycenter can actually be outside the Sun's surface. Data from NASA's SOHO, the Solar and Heliospheric Observatory, has measured this wobble, which is subtle but definitely real. This isn't just a fun fact, it's actually how astronomers discover planets around other stars. By measuring the slight wobble of distant stars, they can detect the gravitational influence of planets we can't directly see. Isn't it amazing that something as fundamental as Earth orbits the Sun, the very idea that got Galileo in trouble with the Church, isn't even completely accurate? Myth number 6, space is freezing cold. We've all heard that space is incredibly cold, right? Movies show astronauts instantly freezing if their suit gets damaged. But the reality is much weirder. According to measurements from NASA's Parker Solar Probe, space itself doesn't really have a temperature, because temperature is a measure of how fast particles are moving, and space has very few particles. What does have temperature are objects in space, and depending on whether they're in sunlight or shadow, they can get extremely hot or cold. The International Space Station, for example, experiences temperatures ranging from minus 157 degrees Celsius, minus 250 degrees Fahrenheit, on the night side to 121 degrees Celsius, 250 degrees Fahrenheit, on the day side. That's why the ISS needs both heaters and cooling systems. And get this, astronauts in spacesuits actually have a bigger problem with overheating than freezing. According to NASA, their suits need cooling systems because human bodies generate heat, and without air or water to carry it away, they could literally cook inside their suits. So space isn't inherently cold. It's a place of temperature extremes where you could simultaneously freeze one side of your body while burning the other side. Myth number 7, we have photos of the entire Milky Way. These beautiful images of our galaxy are everywhere, in textbooks, documentaries, and all over the internet, but I have some shocking news. None of them are real photographs. Why not? Simple. We've never sent a camera far enough away to take a picture of our entire galaxy. According to NASA, even our farthest spacecraft, Voyager 1, has only traveled about 0.0006% of the way to the edge of the Milky Way after more than 45 years of travel. So, what are these images we keep seeing? According to astronomers at the European Space Agency, they're either artists' renderings based on our best understanding of the galaxy's structure, actual photographs of other spiral galaxies that look similar to what we think the Milky Way looks like, or computer models built using data from various telescopes. When you see the Milky Way from Earth, you're seeing it from the inside, that band of stars across the night sky. It would be like trying to photograph your entire house while sitting in the living room. Pretty mind-blowing that some of the most iconic space images we've all seen aren't photographs at all. Myth number 8, meteors burn up due to friction. We've all seen footage of meteors streaking across the sky, leaving fiery trails as they burn up in our atmosphere. The common explanation is that friction with the air causes them to heat up and disintegrate. But according to research from NASA's Meteoroid Environment Office, that's not quite right. The primary cause is actually something called ram pressure or compression heating. When a meteor hits our atmosphere at speeds of up to 72 kilometers per second, it compresses the air in front of it so violently that the air molecules become superheated plasma. This plasma is what erodes the meteor and creates that glowing tail. It's similar to how a spacecraft heats up during re-entry. According to engineers at NASA's Johnson Space Center, the space shuttle's heat shield wasn't designed primarily for friction, it was designed to handle compression heating. So meteors don't burn in the traditional sense at all, they're being blasted apart by superheated air that's been compressed to plasma. Nature is wild. Myth number 9. Polaris, the North Star, is the brightest star. Polaris, our famous North Star, has guided navigators for centuries. Because of its importance, many people assume it must be super bright, maybe even the brightest star in the sky. But according to data from the Hipparcos satellite, Polaris doesn't even crack the top 40 brightest stars. It ranks around 48th in brightness. The actual brightest star we can see is Sirius, which is about 25 times brighter than Polaris. What makes Polaris special isn't its brightness but its position. It happens to sit almost directly above Earth's North Pole, so it appears to stay in the same spot while other stars rotate around it throughout the night. And here's another fun fact from astronomers at the University of Wisconsin. Polaris hasn't always been, and won't always be, our North Star. Due to Earth's wobble, different stars take the position of North Star over a 26,000-year cycle. Around the year 14,000, Vega will be our new North Star. So Polaris isn't particularly bright, it's just in the right place at the right time in cosmic history. Myth number 10. Nebulas are dense cosmic clouds. If you watch any sci-fi show, you've seen spaceships hiding in colorful, cloudy nebulas. Star Trek, Star Wars, Battlestar Galactica, they all do it. But could a spaceship actually hide in a nebula? According to data from the Hubble Space Telescope team, a typical nebula contains only about 100 to 1,000 particles per cubic centimeter. Compare that to Earth's atmosphere, which has about 10 quintillion particles in the same volume. Put another way, a nebula is about 10 trillion times less dense than the air you're breathing right now. An alien ship hiding in a nebula would be like trying to hide behind a single molecule of fog. So why do nebulas look so thick and cloudy in photos? It's because we're looking through thousands of light years of this super thin material. Think of it like looking through miles and miles of barely tinted glass. Eventually it starts to look opaque. According to astrophysicists at the European Southern Observatory, if you were actually inside a nebula, you probably wouldn't even notice it was there. So there you have it. 10 space myths that most of us have believed at some point. From the color of our sun to what's really happening when meteors enter our atmosphere, the universe is even more fascinating than we're taught in school. The next time you look up at the night sky, remember, you're not seeing a yellow sun. Polaris isn't that bright, and if you're looking at the Milky Way, you're seeing it from the inside, not from above. Which of these myths surprised you the most? Let me know in the comments below. And if you learned something new today, please hit that like button and subscribe for more mind-blowing science facts. Share this video with someone who still believes these space myths. You'll blow their mind. Until next time, keep looking up. The universe is even more amazing than we think it is.